I'm Eddie Cox. We're here at Melges Boatworks in Zenda, Wisconsin, world headquarters. Excited to show you guys the Melges 19. We build all of our boats here in Zenda. Raw material to finished boat, it all happens right behind us. Yeah, we decided to build the Melges 19 to kind of round out our line here at Melges. We've had such success with the Melges 15. We built and sold over 1,000 boats in 5 years, which has been huge. And there's a lot of overlap between the Melges 15 and the Melges 19. A lot of the reasons why the Melges 15 is successful is why this boat will be really, really successful. And the hull shape's really similar to the Melges 15, so if you've sailed that boat, or if you know someone that sailed that boat, it's going to be a very similar experience. The other boat that I really like to compare this boat to, one, the Melges 24, obviously, which is kind of the genesis of this whole new line of boats. The downwind sailing in this boat is very, very similar to the Melges 24. So with the Melges 19, some really key areas that we focused on. One was stability. So the boat's incredibly stable. The chines bring a bunch of volume outboard in the boat, so when you're sitting on the rail of the boat, your weight's basically right over this volume in the boat. So the boat's incredibly stable. We really think the hull shape for the Melges 19, it's a really revolutionary hull shape for a couple of reasons. The stability for sure, but the performance of this boat's really incredible. Upwind, the boat's really free and loose. It drives upwind really well, and then downwind, it's a total sled. I mean, the boat, it's a rocket. The other feature is what I'd call kind of the Melges deck. All of our boats have this really comfortable angle on the deck to hike on. It gets you a great angle to hike off of, so really comfortable for anybody of any age to get into this boat and be able to hike and feel comfortable in the boat. The other key to this design is the deep cockpit. It's really easy on your knees. The boom is really high, so you can cross the boat easily, get under the boom easily. And then, we have this big backbone on here. Everybody asks, why do you put the big backbone in the boat? Well, it's for the crew. In the lighter air, when you're not out hiking, you'll be sitting in the middle of the boat. We really wanted to avoid having anybody on their knees. So this is really designed to have a 6-foot person or taller sitting in the middle of the boat and feeling like they're comfortable. You can sit side saddle if you'd like, if you need to move to leeward, if it's really light air, or you can straddle the backbone. It comes from our scow world, and it's something that makes those boats really comfortable to sail, and something that we brought over to the Melges 19. Because we're a 19-foot boat now, we have a lot more load in the boat. Just kind of starting from the back here in the main sheet, we've got this Harken double 40 mil block back here. For people that don't need the extra purchase, you can always take a loop out, but for folks that want a little bit of an easier main sheet to trim and ease, this is a great standard option that comes with the boat. As we move forward in the boat, we have a backstay on the Melges 19, which we really have enjoyed having the backstay on here. It gives the middle person something to kind of play with all the time. You're adjusting the backstay pretty constantly. I think in the 19 too, the ability to kind of configure the boat in different ways, where maybe you'll have the middle person playing the backstay and trimming the main sheet upwind, or you can have the driver driving and trimming the main sheet. There's just a bunch of different ways to configure this boat, which make it really conducive to sailing with anyone. We have these flip-flop blocks on here and our turning spinnaker block back here, which is a little bit different than the Melges 15, where the kite just comes straight to a turning ratchet block. This gives you a little bit of extra purchase. When it's really windy, the line kind of living on this shiv a little bit longer as you move your weight back in the boat gives you a little bit more holding power to the kite. So, these Harken flip-flop blocks are so nice, and it's a really nice standard option that we have on the boat to make it easier for people to trim and ease the kite. Kind of moving forward in the boat, again, it's all about allowing really anybody to sail in any spot on this boat. So if you're a youth sailor, the sheet loads on the jib are going to be really manageable for you. It's a 3-to-1 jib sheet. And then, the key question we get all the time is, how easy is it to pull the kite up and to douse the spinnaker? And the spinnaker is launched through here, so you pull right off of here, and then the spinnaker is doused on the port side of the boat, right behind the spinnaker bag. And really anybody can douse or raise the spinnaker by keeping kind of the loads low for those key jobs. You can have anybody up in the front of the boat. One of the fun differences, I would say, between the 15 and the 19 is the adjustability in the jib. So we have this in-out track, which is pretty nice and slick. And then on the jib, we have a clew board. So you've got multiple ways to adjust the jib and to go through the entire range with the jib. The jib's a pretty powered up sail, so we wanted to make it flexible enough where you could sail throughout the entire range. This is the Melges 19 mast. Really simple rig. Went with aluminum for the mast. That's a really common question. The reason kind of behind the aluminum rig is to keep the cost out of the boat. Longevity. These masts are going to last for a really long time. You don't need a mast track on them. Starting from the bottom here, we've got our nice pivot point for putting the mast up. So it makes it so one person can push the rig up, kind of, we call it Iwo Jima, the rig, push it up like you're pushing up a flag. Moving up the mast, the setup's really similar to our Melges 15, where the main halyard and the jib halyard come right out of the bottom of the mast, and then they attach to a pulley system here on the port and starboard side of the mast. So there's a jib halyard adjustment right here that you can use to put a little bit more depth in the jib or get a little bit of draft aft when you need to. We've got our 29 mil block here. That's for the boom vang. So the vang runs down through this block and then out, and can either run back to the middle person on the boat, or the jib person can control the vang. Then the nice feature that we've kind of been going with is the G-nav system on the vang. So that attaches here and then also attaches to the top of the boom, and that just keeps the cockpit really, really clear. You don't have to worry about running into the boom vang ever when you're tacking or jibing. Keeps the cockpit free of any lines, and it's a pretty slick setup. But yeah, really simple, easy to put up and down. And we want to make it so people can hop in their boat, go sailing for an hour, and come back in without having to rig for an hour and a half. The tuning in this boat is incredibly simple. We wanted to make that as simple as possible. The backstay really helps us with that. It opens up the range of tuning quite a bit. But then the sails as well. With just a single set of sails, the tuning's all really straightforward. The best tuning numbers are what we have developed over 1,000 hours in sailing in the boat, so that's all available to everybody. And if you go to Florida, if you go to the Water Sports Center, you're going to have the experts coaching you in your brand new boat, and you're going to get up to speed a lot faster than a class that doesn't have that type of support. I think there's a ton of advantages to buying a Melges boat, and I'd say the number one advantage is when you get the boat, you're going to be able to go race the next day and not have to touch it. It's going to be race ready. Out of the box, you can go win a national championship the next day.